Open a history book from almost anywhere on Earth. You will find a dragon, a coiled serpent with the eyes of a hunter, gripping claws, a body that moves like water and strikes like fire. You probably figure dragons are just fantasy, something people made up to scare children, or to sell a good legend. That's the easy answer, but it falls apart the moment you look closely. Here's the part nobody tells you. The people who drew these creatures never met. They were separated by oceans, by mountains, even by thousands of years. A farmer in ancient China and a shepherd in ancient Greece never shared a single word. Their languages never touched. Their gods never matched. Their maps never overlapped. And somehow they drew the same animal. How does that happen? If dragons were random inventions, they ought to look random. One culture imagines a thing with 6 legs and feathers, another pictures a glowing cube that floats. A third dreams up something with no eyes at all. That is what pure imagination tends to do. It scatters in every direction. Dragons do the opposite. They converge. Across nearly every ancient civilization, the same body keeps showing up: a long reptilian form, a serpent's spine, sharp teeth in a wide jaw, eyes that face forward the way a hunter's eyes do, talons, often wings, almost always tied to caves, water, or the sky. The Chinese long, the European drake, the Mesoamerican feathered serpent, the Norse Jormungandr, the Hindu Naga, the Egyptian Apep. Different names, different gods, same animal. This is the puzzle that gnawed at an anthropologist named David E. Jones. In his book, An Instinct for Dragons, he asked a question that flips the whole myth on its head. What if nobody invented the dragon? What if it was already inside us, just waiting to be drawn? To see what he meant, you have to set the dragon aside for a moment and think about your ancestors. Go back far enough, and your family tree stops looking human. It looks like something small, something that lived up in the trees, something that spent every single day being hunted. For tens of millions of years, your ancestors sat near the bottom of the food chain, and three things were always trying to eat them: snakes, big cats, and birds of prey. Now, look at the dragon again. The long coiling body of a snake, the fangs and forward eyes of a great cat, the wings and talons of an eagle. Jones noticed the thing that should make the hair on your arm stand up. A dragon is three animals wearing one skin. It is every predator that ever hunted your bloodline fused into a single shape. It is the face of death your ancestors stared at for 50 million years, stitched into one creature your brain already knew how to dread. Nobody had to teach you that fear. It came with the body. Sound impossible? It really shouldn't, because we can still measure that fear today. Two primatologists, Robert Seaforth and Dorothy Cheney, spent years with vervet monkeys in Kenya, and they found something remarkable. The monkeys used different alarm calls for different predators: one specific sound for snakes, another for big cats, and a third for eagles. Each call set off a different escape. The snake call made them stand tall and search the ground. The eagle call sent them diving into the bushes, and the leopard call drove them up into the trees. Three predators, three hardwired reactions, wired in before the monkey is even born. So ask yourself this: if a little monkey carries a built in map of exactly three ancient enemies, what do you think you are carrying? The biologist Lynn Isbell took the idea even further. Her work, sometimes called the snake detection theory, argues that your eyesight itself, the sharpness of your vision, was shaped partly to catch snakes hiding in the grass. The ones who spotted the serpent lived, the ones who missed it never became anybody's ancestor. Generation after generation, your line was filtered into a finely tuned snake detector. It is why a curved stick on a trail can make you flinch before you even register what you're looking at. Your body moves first, the thinking part of you catches up a full second later. That flinch is older than language, older than fire, older than your species. So when an ancient artist sat down to draw the thing that scared them most, they were not reaching for invention. They were reaching for memory. They went into the oldest room in the human mind and pulled out the predator that was already standing there: a snake's body, a cat's teeth, an eagle's wings. The same three enemies in China, in Greece, in Mexico, in Scandinavia. Of course, the dragons matched. Everyone was sketching the same nightmare because everyone was running from the same ghosts. Then there's a second answer, and it is every bit as strange. Because some dragons never lived in the mind at all. Some of them came straight out of the ground. Picture yourself as a farmer 4,000 years ago. You have never heard the word fossil. You have no idea the Earth is unimaginably old. Extinction is a concept that does not exist for you. And one afternoon, digging a well or crossing a dry riverbed, your shovel cracks against something hard and white. You brush off the dirt. You're looking at the skull the size of a wagon, teeth like daggers, a spine longer than your house, claws curved like sickles. What do you decide that it is? Dinosaur is not available to you. That word is thousands of years away. So you land on the only thing that fits: a monster, the bones of a beast the gods must have killed. A dragon. This is the work of the historian Adrian Mayer, whose book, The First Fossil Hunters, rewired how we read ancient myth. Mayer traced the legends back to their sources, to the places where dragon and griffin stories ran strongest, and the pattern was unmistakable. The myths clustered around fossil beds. In the Gobi Desert, along the old trade routes, travelers walked through fields scattered with the bleached bones of Protoceratops, a beaked dinosaur with a frilled skull and four planted legs. And right there, in exactly those lands, the griffin was born, a four-legged creature with a beak crouched over the gold of the desert. The map of the myth lay directly on top of the map of the bones. The same thing kept happening everywhere. In China, dinosaur fossils were ground into medicine and sold for centuries as dragon bones. In Europe, the skulls of mammoths and cave bears were hung in churches as proof the dragons once walked the land. These people were doing their honest best. They found the remains of giants and explained them with the only stories they had. So you end up with two great rivers feeding the same sea. One pours out of your own skull, the inherited fear of three ancient predators burned into your nervous system. The other rises from the earth, the bones of real giants surfacing into a world that had no name for them yet. Where those rivers meet, the dragon takes shape, part memory, part fossil, and human all the way through. Carl Sagan caught a glimpse of this too. In The Dragons of Eden, he wondered out loud whether our dread of reptilian monsters might be an echo, a faint genetic shadow of an age when our tiny mammal ancestors lived in constant terror of the dinosaurs. Most scientists think that particular memory is far too old to survive our genes, so on the details he was probably reaching. But he was pointing at something real. The fear is ancient. It was here long before you, and it quietly shaped the stories you were handed. And this is the part where it stops being about the past, because the dragon never actually left. Think about the last time your heart slammed for no reason. The shape in the dark hallway, the cold drop in your gut when something shifted at the edge of your vision, the dream where something is chasing you and your legs refuse to work. None of that is noise. It is the same machinery that drew the dragon, still running, still scanning, still combing the grass for the serpent that wanted to eat your great great grandmother 10 times removed. You carry it through every ordinary day, in the way your eyes snap toward movement, in the way a horror film seems to know exactly what shapes to show you, in the way you check the dark corner of a room before you let yourself relax. You were never going to bump into a dragon out in the world. You were built, from the ground up, to expect one. That is why every culture drew the same dragon. They were not copying each other, they were not simply being superstitious, they were all holding the same ancient instrument inside their heads. And when each of them played it, the same note came out: a serpent, a predator, a guardian of caves and gold and the far edges of the map, the shape of fear itself, drawn by a hand that already knew it by heart. So open that history book again. You will still find a dragon, but now you can see what it really is. Not something your ancestors made up one idle evening, but the oldest memory your species owns. The face of every hunter that ever chased your blood through the dark, staring back at you across 10,000 years, from inside a book, from inside the ground, and from somewhere just beyond your own eyes.